Hi Libra, I'm Anisha. Welcome to my channel on astrology and tarot, and welcome to your annual forecast of 2022-23. We have another intense year ahead. For those of you who follow astrology, you must have been reading about the Pluto return that is happening this year. The main theme of Pluto return is all around global and political power restructuring that is going to be happening. And it's the time of the year where Pluto was born. Especially this is true for United States. That is where it was during this time, 248 years back, and it's going to be exacting on February 2022. The way that we have individual charts, even nations have charts, and as we speak, we are pretty much in the midst of what we astrologers call as a Pluto return. However, since Pluto moves so slowly, it takes about 248 years to complete one revolution around a zodiac. And Pluto return is basically the time in a nation's history when Pluto returns to the place in the cosmos that it occupied at the nation's inception. That's about 27 degrees to Capricorn. And personally, I think that the Pluto rumbling started around 2008. That's the time when Pluto entered Capricorn. And in the chart of the US, where it is cast for the signing of Declaration of Independence in 1776, the planet Pluto sits in what we call as a second house. It's a house of earned income, it's a house of values, it's a house which is associated with ownership of our money, our possessions, anything that we hold very dearly and is of great value. So, in other words, the Lord of the underworld, of transformation, of life and death, and our shadow is pretty much what Pluto is all about. And also because it sits in the sign of Capricorn, which in my view doubles the theme of worthiness this year. Capricorn is a sign of the sea goat, the mythological creature that can climb any mountain, it can cross any sea in its quest to succeed. And often, when we have planets in the second house, in the sign of Capricorn, and especially with when one of those planets happens to be Pluto, we are dealing with a shadow self who believes that it must work in order to prove its worth. Believing that it is not enough already, it finds itself in circumstance after circumstance that demands that it pay a price for something that it actually already owns. So, until something happens to break the cycle and raise our consciousness, it can be one endless cycle of trying to prove our worth constantly. Now, let's talk about Pluto. I just like to give a context, considering there's so much of trepidation around the Pluto transit, and I also do feel that we need to be looking at this transit more closely. We need to be paying heed to it. So there are things that we need to be transforming in our life, and understanding really actually who or what Pluto is. So most of the mythological stories which are associated with the planet Pluto are linked to Greek god Hades. He was the lord of the underworld and with a rather tight and unyielding control. And Hades ruled the realm of those who were passing from this world to the next. His name and his myth are associated with power, with transformation, with resurrection, the shadow, the riches of the unseen, and with the life, death, and rebirth cycle. The most Plutonian myth that comes to my mind is the one that he shares with Persephone. Now, Persephone was abducted by Hades to become his wife and to help him rule his realm. Now, most accounts describe her abduction and her initiation into the dark world or into the underworld as an intense process whereby she was stripped of the life that she had known before. She was made to give up on everything, anything that she remembered. She was stripped completely of it, so that in order to undergo a rebirth that enabled her to rise and become one of the most powerful deities in Greek mythology. Similarly, in astrology, the symbolism of Pluto in the birth chart is associated with similar processes of transformation. Pluto transits often accompany periods in our life that seem to take us down in order for us to rise up and stand up for our own selves or our own self worth. That seem to demand that we surrender every ounce of our power so that we may remember what it means to own and wield our power responsibly. Deep and heavy stuff, but since this transit is not going away soon, it's worth our time to see where Pluto exactly is transiting, whether any other planet is transiting along with it, any hard planet like a Saturn or a Uranus, and then see as to which area of our life we need to be transforming. I'm going to be covering broadly for all the signs as to where exactly it's aspecting for you, but it would be worth your while to check in your own individual charts as well to see whether other planets are there or not. So for you, it's going to be there in your house of home, Librans. It is the place which rules your home, your family, your emotions, your foundation. So having Pluto over there can bring about a lot of power struggles and control issues at home or in the family, or emotional issues, or controlling your own emotions, especially rage, or feel that your internal foundation is shaky, which can lead to lots of other problems. Now, what you can do to survive this transit is that it's a great time for you to be transforming your view of home, what it means to you, or to transform your physical space. Excellent for renovating your space, a great time to be selling, buying, renting, or just making your space a very safe zone or a comfortable space for yourself. This can also help you feel connected to your living space, more comfortable and at home. You may also need to assess your issues with your family and determine if you can salvage the relationships you have with them and transform them. If you can't, you may need to let it go. This can also be a good transit to dig deep within yourself, getting to your core and understanding your emotional issues, what gets to you, what makes you tick, and how you can become stronger internally. This is a chance for you, Librans, to become much, much more stronger emotionally, and this can set you up for the rest of your life. So, worth all the trouble of really digging deep and seeing as to what is it that really hurts, the wounds that have not healed. The transit can be more prominent in your life, like I mentioned, especially if there's another planet that is transiting, specifically if it's a Saturn or a Uranus. Your ruler Venus is also retrograde during this time as we speak, and it is retrograde till about end of January 2022. And during this time, you may want to hold on to what you want to let go, and it can be quite a recurrent issue for you. Not so much in the outer world, but really in the inner. In the set of circumstances can really make you feel at home and well supported, emotionally and spiritually, and asked to be defined or rather redefined. Are you where you would like to be? Are your values abiding or shifting? What is your personal bottom line? As you address these questions, you find yourself redefined and more secure from within, and therefore better able to go after goals on the outside, especially in your interaction with others. As scary as it sounds, Librans, it's really a time, especially as far as your foundations are concerned, and there could be some stuff that comes up during this time, maybe from your childhood. Maybe there's a certain specific way that you were brought up and you still, that has become a part of your DNA, and that has not been working quite well for you. That for you to release it, there could be this innate sense of wanting to cling on to it for the sense of nostalgia, or maybe even some sense of a loyalty towards your childhood, towards your past, to say, no, this is what I grew up with. But if things have not been working out for you at the foundational level, then maybe this is the time that you need to be releasing, you need to be transforming yourself. April 30th, we have a solar eclipse in your house of joint finances, which is joining Uranus, which is already there. So eclipses this year for 2022 are going to be affecting your house of joint finances, resources, taxes, sexuality, and they're going to be aspecting your house of earned income. And this is like pretty much the theme for you this entire year. And this is a time where it's going to be speaking about other people's money, like taxes, debts, joint finances. And with a new moon or a solar eclipse here, you may have to deal with any of these issues. And it's a good time to be paying off debt or get money that's owed to you, as well as get a loan or a line of credit. Just make sure that it's something that you really need. And this house also rules transformation, so you may make some sort of a transformation in your life. You may not need necessarily get rid of things, or may just tweak them a little bit to make them work. Sometimes Librans and a complete overhaul is not required, but just a small renovation is all that is needed. Maybe you just need to be speaking differently. Maybe you just need to be listening more. You really don't have to tear things down in order for them to work. And it can be that during this time that your sex drive also increases, but casual sex is not going to be something working for you. You're going to be in for a very intense experience. Intensity is quite a given with this specific position in all facets of life, because you approach things in a more powerful way during this phase, and you will look beneath the surface to try and find what's really there. And if there's nothing to find, you could be quite disappointed. So you may find that your personality is a bit darker during this time if you struggle with who you really are internally. I would really suggest that you seek a therapist. You seek a good therapist, someone who can help you work through this space while you internalize and while you sort of sort through whether there's childhood trauma, or whether there is a toxic relationship past that you are unable to get through, or even if your current relationship you're just unhappy, then having a professional who can help you see the a different perspective and sort of hold your hand and guide you through it can be immensely helpful. May the 11th, Jupiter moves into your house of relationships. It is both your marriage as well as your business relationships, and it stays there till about October 9th. And on May 16th, we have a lunar eclipse that happens again in your house of earned income. And we need to be remembering that eclipse effects last for about 6 months. So with Jupiter moving into your house of marriage and your business relationships, great time to be not just spending time with your partner, but a time to be traveling together, time to be understanding each other and really addressing each other's needs will really help you. And with a full moon that happens around the May 16th during this time, it is something that can affect your finances. You could finish paying off something, maybe a financial project, or have a change in earnings. It's a time where you need to be watching your spending as well. Try not to overindulge yourself, and maybe it's something that you just don't need. And this house also rules self-esteem and value. So you could be confronted with your feelings about yourself and evaluate your own self-worth. How much value you believe you have materially and intrinsically, and how much you feel you should have, can be issues that get presented during this time. Let others know what you have and what you've accomplished in your career, in your family, or life, but resist the urge to rub it in. Instead, use it to show others the right path to take to what they want by illustrating the road that you took. You may want to clearly define what you own, possess, and have power over, and what is clearly out of your domain. What your needs are seem more important, and you could focus on what exactly it is that you need to feel secure, stable, and comfortable. Now, between September and November 2022, we have a square between Saturn and Uranus. And for you, again, it's going to be aspecting your joint finances and transformation, sexuality, and it's going to be aspecting your house of love, romance. So you could feel quite polarized between these two. You need to be reminding yourself of the lessons that you have learned in these areas, Librans. It's try not to, even if the other person is being transactional as far as relationships are concerned, try and be the better person. Try and speak and be and deal through love, through compassion, through kindness, and also keep your creativity fueled. Use that as a channel to release any frustration or any disappointments that you may have. From October 25th, we have a solar eclipse that is there again in your house of an income. And then we have a lunar eclipse that is there. And we have Mars that is going retrograde for 2 months in Gemini, end of October. And this is really an adventure time. So you could be quite excited to be hitting the road. You could be making spontaneous plans with your friends. There could be a road trip. You could, and if none of that is happening, you need to be asking yourself as to what is inhibiting you from expanding your horizons. So strategize for yourself, for your future growth, and then make the first move. Make an effort, whether that means you're going back to college or school, or you're finally finalizing or you're publishing that knowledge. We'll be closing the year with Jupiter that moves back into your house of day-to-day chores briefly, and this is also the house of your health, and then it'll go direct again in your house of love, romance. So important theme for you, Librans, is going to be keeping an eye on inner foundations, working through them, because Pluto is going to be quite merciless in to digging up things that may have become like a second nature and they do not work, whether it's your fear, whether they're insecurities, whether it is being in an abusive relationship, whether it is your own ability to do something that you want, but what is it that is stopping you? Maybe there is a certain background script that is running which needs to be completely be rejected. It needs to be completely deleted. And Pluto loves effort. If you are transforming, if you're making that effort, and it will support you. So remember, like the Saturnian lesson is there, Pluto too loves nothing more than someone who's trying to transform, someone who's trying to change, who's trying to bring about. Yes, it is painful. Yes, it is not going to be easy, but it's going to be setting you up for good for the rest of your life. So it's very well worth it. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Librans. I'll see you again soon.